Now that Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater has finally been released, the conversation around Metal Gear has completely shifted. For years, the question was, will Konami ever do anything with this series again? Now it is, what's next? What's Konami's plan for the future of the series? Whether you left Delta or think it could have been better, one thing is clear. The majority of players are enjoying it, and despite some technical hiccups and performance issues, the remake has landed favorable reviews from both critiques and fans. Konami has also officially announced that Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater has sold 1 million copies worldwide as of August 28, 2025, which is the official release date for the game, which also indicates that the majority of players bought the Digital Deluxe Edition just so they could play the game 2 days early. It proves how badly fans have been waiting for a real Metal Gear comeback. This is a huge achievement for the remake, especially considering the mixed feeling fans had leading up to its launch. Whether you're a long-time Metal Gear veteran or someone discovering the series for the first time, it is clear that Snake Eater still holds its place as one of the most beloved entries in the franchise. For the first time in almost 10 years, Metal Gear finally has momentum again. The last real spark was the Phantom Pain in 2015. What followed was nothing but silence, the disaster of Metal Gear Survive, and years where the series was completely absent from modern hardware. Thanks to Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, the series has been revived, breathing new life into a franchise that had been on life support for nearly a decade. And by the way, Delta is more than just a remake. It is a proof that Konami is finally willing to bring Metal Gear back into the spotlight. And that opens up the biggest question of all. Which Metal Gear game should they remake next? Before we jump into speculation, let's take a step back. Why was Snake Eater chosen as the first remake? Because it makes perfect sense. Chronologically, it is the earliest story in the saga. It introduces Big Boss, the boss, Zero, and the philosophical conflict that shapes the entire series. It is also a self-contained emotional story. New players don't need to know what came before, and for longtime fans, it is one of the most universally loved entries in the franchise. It is the perfect way to reintroduce Metal Gear to a younger new audience who have never touched the series before. And I know plenty of people who are jumping into Delta as their very first Metal Gear. And for Konami, it was also a test. Could they remake a Kojima game without Kojima? Could they win back fans burned by years of silence, by Metal Gear Survive, and by the series being inaccessible on modern hardware for a long time until the Master Collection? By most accounts, they have succeeded. Not perfectly, but enough to prove that Metal Gear is viable again. But Konami can't stop here. Metal Gear isn't just any IP. This is a series that sold over 60 million copies worldwide. A series that was once considered a system seller, standing toe-to-toe with juggernauts like Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, and even The Legend of Zelda. It would be downright foolish for Konami to release just one remake and call it a day. It is too valuable to let it sit dormant again. In fact, series producer Noriyuki Okamura has stated that Konami wants to support the Metal Gear franchise for the next 10 or even 50 years. That is a huge statement, and given how they've been handling Silent Hill, reviving it with multiple projects, remakes, and reimaginings, it is crystal clear that remakes are part of the strategy. So yes, it is almost certain Konami will continue to remake Metal Gear games. The question is, which one comes next? A few days ago, I posted a poll on YouTube asking fans which Metal Gear game Konami should remake after Delta. The options were Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops, Metal Gear the original MSX game, and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. And as I expected, Metal Gear Solid 1 crushed the poll. Fans clearly want to see Shadow Moses rebuilt with modern visuals and gameplay. And who could blame them? Metal Gear Solid 1 was a landmark in gaming history. It was the entry point for so many fans, including me. It revolutionized stealth games. Sneaking your way through the shadowy corridors of Shadow Moses, Psycho Mantis reading your memory card, fighting Sniper Wolf in a snowstorm, the cinematic reveal of Metal Gear Rex. For many fans, this was the game that defined their childhood. Unfortunately, time has not been kind to this one. Its gameplay and visuals are painfully outdated, but that's to be expected for the series' first step into 3D, which is exactly why it needs a full remake. And while it technically got a remake in 2004 with the Twin Snakes, let's be honest, that wasn't the right way to remake the game. It wasn't what people wanted. It was divisive. Some people love it, but many found its over-the-top cutscenes and odd changes to be distracting. So does Metal Gear Solid 1 deserve a proper modern remake? Absolutely yes. But should it be the next one, right after Delta? Absolutely not. Think about it. Konami chose Snake Eater because it is the first chapter in the timeline, and because it introduces Big Boss's story to a whole new generation. Jumping straight to Metal Gear Solid 1 after that would mean skipping 5 games in the timeline. Picture this. You are a brand new player. You play Delta, you love it, and then the next game jumps a decade ahead. Suddenly, you are Solid Snake taking on Foxhound at Shadow Moses. Big Boss is a villain now who is also dead. Outer Heaven and Zanzibar Land are already past events. Grey Fox shows up, and out of nowhere there's talks about clones and genome soldiers with no context at all. It would leave the new fans, the very ones Konami wants to attract, feeling totally lost. That level of confusion is exactly what many of us felt back in 1998 when Metal Gear Solid was our first entry. We didn't really know who Big Boss was, or what Outer Heaven meant. Somehow though, it worked, because that confusion created mystery. But today, when Konami has the perfect chance to reintroduce the series in a chronological order, skipping ahead would feel careless and sloppy. Don't get me wrong, I want to see a remake of Metal Gear Solid 1 as much as anyone. But right after Delta? That would be a massive mistake. So what about Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops? This one is interesting because it is a direct sequel to Snake Eater. It continues Big Boss's story, introduces characters like Gene, and sets the stage for the eventual creation of Outer Heaven. On paper, it makes sense to remake it, especially since it was co-directed by Masahiro Yamamoto and Noriyuki Okamura. The same Okamura now who's producing the series today. That connection alone makes it a strong candidate. But here's the catch. Kojima wasn't directly involved. He produced it, but he didn't write or direct it. That's why the game canonicity has always been debated. Even Kojima himself gave mixed answers, sometimes saying it is canon, sometimes not. I made a full video about this a while ago, so I won't go too deep into it here. But if you want more context, I recommend you checking that video out. Personally, I would love to see a remake of Portable Ops. It introduced some really cool ideas like recruiting enemy soldiers to your team, a system that went on to shape both Peace Walker and the Phantom Pain. But the game itself hasn't aged well, and its role in the official timeline has always been questionable. If Konami ever remakes Portable Ops, they would need to refine the gameplay and, more importantly, adjust the story so it firmly fit into the canon. But if we are being realistic, it is unlikely. Even Konami's own official timeline graphic left it out, and that doesn't inspire much confidence. So while I doubt Portable Ops will be the next remake, I wouldn't complain if it somehow happened. And if it doesn't, well, I'm not losing any sleep over it. Now let's talk about the one I personally want the most, the original Metal Gear from the 1987 on the MSX2. This is where everything began. Solid Snake's very first mission, Big Boss' shocking betrayal, Grey Fox and the Resistance fighters. The foundation of the entire saga was laid right here. The problem is, the original hardware was extremely limited. We are talking about top-down stealth game with preemptive AI, simple text boxes, and lots of repetition. A one-to-one remake wouldn't cut it. Even Kojima himself admitted this in a 2014 interview with Jeff Keighley. He said if he ever remade the MSX games, he would want to fix the story inconsistencies that appear later in the series. But he also admitted that he might change so much that it would basically become a brand new game. And honestly, that's exactly what this remake would need to be. Something massive, something ambitious, the kind of project where everything is expanded and reimagined. Think Final Fantasy VII Remake/Rebirth levels of transformation. This would be the ultimate test of whether Konami can deliver a truly great Metal Gear without Kojima. But before Konami could worry about that, there is one other game that makes even more sense. Which brings us to what I think is the clear answer, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. In my opinion, this is the most logical and the most likely choice for the next remake. It is the official direct sequel to Snake Eater. Kojima himself even considered it Metal Gear Solid 5 because of how important it was to Big Boss's arc. It is the game that directly sets the stage for Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain. But here's the issue. It was originally a PSP game. That meant low resolution, awkward controls, bad frame rate, and a mission structure designed around the handheld's cooperative play limitations. And because cooperative play was a big feature in the game, many missions were built for short bursts of play. Some of these missions lasting barely 40 seconds. Yes, the 2011 HD version has improved the resolution and the frame rates, but it didn't solve the pacing issues. The game never reached its full potential. A remake could finally fix all of that, expand the missions, modernize the control, and let the story actually breathe. Imagine Peace Walker fully realized with the scope and polish of Delta, complete with full cinematic cutscenes instead of the Ashley Woods comic-style artwork. And since it is the next chronological chapter after Snake Eater, it makes perfect sense for both newcomers and longtime fans. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Konami is already quietly developing it. If I had to guess, we will probably see it sometimes around 2027 or 2028. If it is not Peace Walker, I will be shocked. I have seen some comments about other Metal Gear games like Acid 1 and 2, Ghost Babel, Snake's Revenge, Ground Zeroes, and The Phantom Pain. For Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2, these don't need remakes, just HD remasters in a future master collection. A Ghost Babel remake is possible, but it should only come after the original MSX Metal Gear, since it serves as a direct sequel to it. Like Portable Ops, it isn't part of the official timeline, so if Konami were to remake it, they would need to rework its story and narrative to properly fit into canon. For Snake's Revenge, a standalone remake is highly unlikely, but its idea could be folded into one of the MSX games' remake. As for Ground Zeroes and The Phantom Pain, they are too recent. At best, they would get remasters with better lighting and textures. However, the real wildcard would be Konami revisiting Metal Gear Solid V to finish Kojima's original vision. But given how complicated the Fox engine is and how messy the game development was, I doubt Konami would want to touch the Fox engine ever again. I think the best move Konami could make would be to release a follow-up to these two, ties up the loose end, and finally closes the plot holes. But let's be real, that feels pretty far-fetched to me. In conclusion, my prediction of what Metal Gear game Konami should remake next will be Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. It continues Big Boss's story directly after Snake Eater, which keeps the series flowing in a chronological order for new fans, and it bridges perfectly into Ground Zeroes and The Phantom Pain. A remake of Peace Walker will be able to fix a game that never lived up to its potential. Peace Walker is the move that makes the most sense for both fans and newcomers. Of course, Konami could surprise us, but if they skip Peace Walker and jump straight to something else, they risk confusing new fans and breaking the momentum they have built with Delta. So what do you think? Should Konami follow the timeline and remake Peace Walker next? Or chase the nostalgia and jump straight to Metal Gear Solid 1? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.